So I came across a rather ridiculous, rather hilarious story, and I just wanted to share it with you because there is a 0% chance that anybody should go through life not knowing this story, because I think it sums up so many things, so many different things. It dovetails so many things in the world of football and in my personal world. Because for those that don't know your Zealand lore, I was born and raised in a wonderful town called Tampa, Florida. West coast of Florida, about halfway up the dong. And it was a nice place to grow up. You know, we had sports teams, we had sunshine, we had Cuban sandwiches. They were actually invented in Tampa, by the way, which sounds like some crazy Americanism. But I swear, Google a Cuban sandwich, and it was invented in Tampa. And they're very good. If you've never had one, you're really missing out. But another constant of my life growing up in Tampa was the Glazer family, right? They're obviously much more known for the people that watch this channel for owning Manchester United, but they've owned my NFL team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, for longer, and they are from Tampa. They are a big, family with a lot of money that owns like property and stuff in Tampa. Just, that a wealthy group of people that when you grow up in an area, you just kind of know about. And they've owned the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they've never been particularly good owners. The Bucs have won 2 different Super Bowls, which is wonderful, and both of them were successively like the best day of my life. But it was never really the Glazers that got a ton of the credit for that, and most of the time the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were, bad. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers actually have the worst overall winning percentage in the history of the NFL. They bought Manchester United in 2005. They bought Manchester United with like their own debt, basically. Very complex financial maneuvering that essentially meant that Manchester United was paying for itself over a long period of time because they just took out a huge loan and paid the loan off with money that they made from Manchester United, which, started on a bad foot, kind of went downhill from there, especially when Sir Alex Ferguson left. And you know how that story's gone. Then Sir Jim Ratcliffe has hopped in, and now the Glazers, even though they own 75% of the club, are in the background because Sir Jim Ratcliffe has taken over football operations. That catches you up for whatever reason you didn't know any part of the lore. But the story has to do with the interactions between Manchester United and the Buccaneers, right? Because logic would dictate that if you own an NFL team, and if you own, one of the biggest football clubs in the world, that they would interact maybe at some point. Manchester United tours the U.S., it feels like every year, right? Playing in major NFL stadiums all over. You know where they've never played? Raymond James Stadium, the home of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The big stadium in Tampa with the pirate ship in the corner, which if you didn't know, yes, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a pirate ship in the corner of the stadium. And I'll show you. Because Buccaneers are pirates. There's the pirate ship. Every time the Bucs score or get close to scoring, they fire the cannons like with blanks. These cannons actually work. I wonder if you could actually fire those cannons, but they fire the cannons. Kind of looks like this. Just a wonderful prop. And I just feel like it would be great if Manchester United played in this stadium and when they scored a goal, they fired the cannons all over again. That would just be a great time. But there is apparently a reason that has not ever happened. And it is the most Glazer, most just cheap, for lack of a better term, it's the most cheap reason that you could possibly think of. And the source for this is ESPN's reporter, Mark Ogden. So this is not hearsay. This is not an unnamed source. This is ESPN's credited reporter, Mark Ogden, who was talking to the Football Reporters podcast. The article here from The Sun is just relaying the quotes from Mark Ogden talking on this particular podcast. And I'm just going to read it verbatim because it's going to knock you on your ass how on the nose this is. And I quote, "I was told a story by somebody who worked at United, and it's the elephant in the room that we haven't really discussed. It's the Glazers. It's the Glazer family and their ownership of the club. I asked this person, I said, when United go to America, why do they never go to Tampa? Arsenal will do a link up with the LA Rams or with whoever because their owner is the same person. Liverpool will do it with FSG in Boston because their owners are the same people. They spend a lot of time there. United have never gone anywhere near Tampa, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that the Glazers in the U.S. are. I was told it's quite simply because the owners didn't want the United squad to see how good the Tampa Bay facilities were." Oh, if I was writing An article for The Onion about Glazer ownership of Manchester United. I don't think I could have come up with a funnier, better excuse to not bring your one team around your other team because you believe the facilities at the other team are so much better that the first team would get jealous. They didn't want them to see the training ground because the training ground in Tampa is meant to be state of the art. And I'm not going to lie, it is pretty good, right? It wasn't always good. And this article goes on to praise the stadium, which I don't necessarily agree with. Raymond James Stadium is not considered a particularly state of the art stadium. It's outside of the fact that there's a pirate ship in the end zone, it is a very standard stadium. You know, there's nothing outstanding about it besides $15 hot dogs or whatever, right? But the training facility, it's called One Buck Place. And as somebody that lived in Tampa and worked in Tampa and whatever, I've driven by One Buck Place 1,000 times. I've been there once or twice as well for various events, or I think like a camp when I was in high school. Very, very, very nice. Very nice. Now, I would always imagine that Manchester United's facilities were better, were somewhere near that level. But I guess not. I mean, we all remember Cristiano Ronaldo's interview with Piers Morgan. Now, I'm surprised we were able to hear Piers Morgan at all in that interview because he had Ronaldo's dick so far down his throat that it should have been blocking his vocal cords. But regardless of that part of the interview, Cristiano Ronaldo did have some very important things to say about the fact that when he left in 2009, it was basically the same. Clubs need to progress, especially with the amount of money that Manchester United has been bringing in, right? You're talking about not only these final successful years of Sir Alex Ferguson after Ronaldo left, but the just huge rise in TV revenue that Manchester United's been awarded, and just being Manchester United, they've spent that money on bad players and lining the pockets of the people that own the club, most likely. I don't know the exact financial details, but considering the Glazers have only, according to this article, put $50 million US into the team since 2009, I would imagine that they have taken some out, not just to pay their loan, but I mean literally to pay for a private jet here or there. You know, casual, normal stuff. But if you have somebody like Cristiano Ronaldo who actually gets to time capsule it and has been gone for 13 years and then comes back and says that shit is basically the same, there is not a good amount of investment going on here. Okay? And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not as big of a deal as Manchester United. I don't know if you know anything about NFL, and if you don't, that's perfectly fine. Okay? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not one of the bigger brands in the league. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a very regional team. They are not the Dallas Cowboys. All right? They are not the Kansas City Chiefs, the New England Patriots, these teams that, get huge followings based off of success in various eras, right? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are one of the afterthoughts of the league the vast majority of the time, except for right now. We are currently in the greatest stretch in Buccaneers history where we've won the division 4 straight years, which is great. Again, if you don't understand American football, that makes no sense to you. I'm just bragging about my team. The biggest surprise for me then is, if you are the Glazers, you own one of the preeminent football brands in the world, and then you own the Bucs. Okay, why is the money going into the Bucs? And even then, nobody likes the Glazers as an owner, right? Or let me contrast this. The owner of the other team that is in Tampa, which is the Tampa Bay Lightning of the NHL, we love them, right? Vinnick is his last name. The dude gives away $50,000 at every game to a local hero. He recently sold a controlling share in the team, but there's like a couple-year transition period where he's going to try and keep the legacy going. And this Vinnick guy became basically a hero in Tampa. Everybody loves him. The Lightning sell out every game. And if you meet somebody from Tampa, even though we are all Bucs fans as well, the Tampa Bay Lightning are the team we bond over. And of course, they had a lot of success on the ice. We won 2 championships in a row. We made 3 consecutive finals. And the team has basically been a championship contender for the past decade. I don't know why Florida is so good at hockey all of a sudden. Our best player is Russian and the other best one's Canadian. So anyways, Tampa is capable of loving an owner, right? And even though we recently won a Super Bowl, everybody just gave the credit to Tom Brady and the people that were making the decisions in terms of player acquisition. It didn't necessarily go to the Glazers, who have always come off as, even when I was a little kid, kind of a penny pinching, doing the bare minimum to, help out the city or whatever, and not really overly present. And I get the feeling that that is the same impression that the people that are fans of Manchester United have had about the Glazers. Except the Glazers started off on a much worse foot by buying the club with its own debt, right? And so they started at -10, and they have not been able to progress off of -10. They've just continued to hire people that aren't very good at their job. That's a pretty good way to piss people off. When the Bucks have lost a lot of games under the Glazers, and that was another contributing factor to us going, we just don't really like him that much. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't know why they were afraid of showing off the Bucks facilities. That means Manchester United's facilities must be really bad, even though allegedly they're trying to invest in improving those now, and they're throwing, a couple dozen millions at it trying to make some improvements to the various facilities at this point. But even with the facilities, it doesn't necessarily make the Glazers great owners. I think this story just kind of sums up that, instead of solving the problem and reinvesting a little bit of the more money that comes from Manchester United into the club to just keep up with the Joneses facility-wise, they just decided to try and not utilize the connection they have between Manchester United and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and just never let them get within a country mile of each other so the players don't get jealous. Because that'll work, right? Totally. What a weird story.